So guys, we hear about tennis elbow all the time, but the really key thing about this condition is looking into the anatomy and understanding what it's all about. If that's what you've come for, let's dive in. Hey guys, Khalid here. Welcome back to Clinical Physio. So, anatomy tutorial, let's dive into our 3D anatomy model. So when we think about tennis elbow, we're talking primarily about an irritation of the tendons to the back or the posterior surface of our forearm, because all of these muscles insert into the lateral epicondyle of the humerus. What does that all mean? Let's find out. So if we look at the humerus bone itself, which is the main arm bone from the shoulder down to the elbow, and we can see here at the distal humerus that we have two clearly defined bony protuberances. We have one here on the medial or inside of the elbow, which is called the medial epicondyle. And this actually forms the attachment point for all the wrist flexor muscles on the front of the forearm. And on the lateral or outside, we have the lateral epicondyle. And this is the key point that we're going to be focusing on in this video, as all the key muscles in tennis elbow attach around this particular point. So let's take a dive into those particular muscles. First of all, we have the extensor carpi radialis longus muscle, or the ECRL for short. Now, actually, this tendon does not insert into the lateral epicondyle here, but actually just above it, or just proximal to it, at the anterolateral supracondylar ridge. However, if we look at the following muscles next, we have extensor carpi radialis brevis, or ECRB for short. We have extensor digitorum. We have extensor digiti minimi, and we have extensor carpi ulnaris. Now, look at how all of these muscles run across the posterior or back surface of the forearm before inserting into the lateral epicondyle, as we mentioned earlier. And just for note, it is often suggested that out of these, the extensor carpi radialis brevis muscle is the one most often implicated when it comes to tennis elbow. Now, on this model, we've shown you the individual tendons, but in reality, all of these tendons actually join together to form one key tendon, commonly referred to as the common extensor origin. And as you can see, the common extensor origin will insert into the lateral epicondyle of the humerus. And hey, now you know why tennis elbow in medical language is referred to as lateral epicondylopathy. So that's the anatomy. How do we actually diagnose tennis elbow? Well, the most common presentation is going to be for a patient in the middle ages, between perhaps 35 and 55. And we're looking in particular for a story where the patient has had an overload or lots of repetitive gripping and twisting. So we might be thinking about someone who has done loads of gardening over the weekend and thus irritated the tendon, or someone who does repeated gripping and twisting for a living, perhaps a plumber, for example. And ultimately, we're looking to see whether or not it's those aggravating factors of repeated gripping and twisting which seem to stir up their symptoms. Now, this is where the anatomy is super important. Where are these patients going to get their pain? Well, as you've seen, it's going to be at that lateral epicondyle itself, or perhaps just a little bit distal to that, just onto that common extensor origin tendon, where they might be reporting their pain. And then when it comes to our palpation, we're going to be pressing around that area to see if that specifically recreates their symptoms. And the majority of the time, we would expect for it to do so. So what about special tests to help with our diagnosis? Well, we can use something like resisted middle finger extension. This is called Maudsley's test. Remember, M for M, Maudsley's for middle. Or we can use something like Cozen's test, which is resisted wrist extension. And with both of these, we're looking to see if it recreates our patient's pain around that lateral epicondyle region. But another brilliant test we can use is the grip strength test. This is where we might give our patient a handheld dynamometer and we're testing their grip at both 90 degrees elbow flexion and full elbow extension. And a positive test would be where there seems to be a 5 to 10% deficit in their grip strength just because they have their elbow extended. That would be a positive sign for tennis elbow. And finally, how might we treat it? Well, first is really simple load management. This basically means trying to reduce or control the amount of gripping and twisting that individual is doing to see if that reduces the irritation on the tendons and calms things down. Then we're going to be thinking about strengthening exercises, and these are used to progressively reload the tendons to see if we can get them stronger. With these, I often talk to patients about making sure that pain does not increase above a 4 or a 5 out of 10 when doing the exercises, and that the pain doesn't linger for a period of time afterwards. So in the early stages, that may be done with isometric wrist extension, where the bottom hand here is the one being worked, with a 5-second hold and 8 repetitions for 2 sets. Or it may be eccentric wrist extension, where the other hand controls the weight up and the affected hand controls it back down. 8 repetitions and 2 sets once again. And then it may progress to combined concentric and eccentric wrist extension. Again, 8 reps, 2 sets, and we're looking to gradually progress the weight with each of these exercises as the patient's symptoms improve. So guys, if you wanted more, we've also got a brilliant video called When is Tennis Elbow Not Tennis Elbow, which goes into some of the key differential diagnoses for when patients have pain around that lateral epicondyle. Well worth checking out, and you can find it up here. Otherwise, please support us by smashing that like button, subscribing to the channel, and check us out, of course, on Instagram at Clinical Physio and on our website, clinicalphysio.com. I'm Khalid. See you soon here on Clinical Physio.